So what I wanted to talk today particularly about, and I'm no relationship expert at all, but I wanted to talk about romantic relationships and some of kind of the struggles and things that go on between a romantically involved couple in a relationship, as just some kind of thoughts that have been coming to my mind about it, particularly how we feel in a relationship. Like, I think it's common for couples, especially couples that have been together for a while, that, one partner says one thing and the other partner takes it the wrong way, right? Maybe they're stressed, overworked, didn't sleep well, they're not feeling good, they're just hungry, or they didn't have their cup of coffee and just the timing wasn't right. Maybe one person said something that was just hit you in the wrong way. It touched a nerve. You didn't like their tone, you didn't like the way they said it, and something clicked in your mind that was just like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like what he or she said. That was not something that made me feel good inside. And it triggers kind of like an emotional response, like bad sort of feelings, like it made you mad or made you kind of question yourself, or it did something to make you feel insecure. And I think this is a common kind of back and forth thing, even if their partner didn't mean to intentionally upset the other one, that there was just something that they said that just didn't sit right with them. It hit a nerve somewhere. And this happens to all of us, whether we show it or not. Sometimes the partner may kind of sit in silence with it and not bring it up, or they're vocal about it right there from the get-go. And you know how that goes. One partner says something, the other partner reacts. The other partner says, oh, stop being so sensitive, oh, you're overreacting, blah, blah, blah. Goes back to the partner, the other partner feels, oh, I'm not being heard. They get even more upset, lash back, and that's how the argument starts. That's how the back and forth goes, And I think any couple could relate to that, especially the ones that have been together 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, especially if you're married, going through that sort of back and forth. And it's one of those things that, no matter how much work you do, and no matter how much effort you put into sitting down and communicating and being vocal about how you feel, that it's just one thing that you feel like you kind of keep running into. No matter how many times you've had those long, heartfelt discussions and talks with your partner about how you're feeling and, hey, we need to communicate more, we need to do this, we need to do that. And you still run into those issues again. I think it's something that, we're not perfect. We're not perfect human beings. So how can we expect our partners to be absolutely 100% perfect? We can't. You're dealing with two individuals. And you wouldn't like someone to expect you to be perfect. So why do we expect our partners to be absolutely perfect? We expect them to be mind readers. We expect them to know exactly how we're feeling all the time. We expect them to, oh, we've been together for so and so how many years. How do you not know this about me already? How do you not know that I don't like ketchup with my eggs? I mean, that's kind of a silly thing, right? I mean, if you have been together with somebody long enough, you would know that they don't like ketchup with their eggs. But the point I'm trying to make is that we can never know, because we as human beings got so much going on internally in our own mind, in our own worlds, that to kind of put that on somebody else, it's just, that's too much pressure for another person to manage. You know, you got to kind of be your own person and handle your own self first. Now, that's not to deny your own feelings, you know, that's not to deny how your partner acts, you know, or what they do, or you know, everybody's different, you know. And like I said, I'm not a relationship coach, I'm not a relationship expert, you know. I might not even be the best person to talk to about this. I'm just going off of, based on, you know, my personal experiences and what I think, you know. But what you kind of have to sometimes do is come back to yourself and be like, hey, am I giving it my best? Am I doing the right thing? You know, am I acting the right way? You know, am I maybe getting a little bit too triggered? You know, am I maybe am being a little bit too sensitive? Am I overreacting? Maybe just a little bit, you know, even if, you know, and I think it was Jordan Peterson that said this best, you know, talking about relationships, that even if I know that I'm right, you know, and I'm 98% right, maybe there's just like a 2% that maybe there's something I'm wrong about, or maybe that there's something that, you know, and because that's always the thing, we're always going to have our own personal bias as well. In our minds, we're going to think we're correct, we're the right one, that we are the logical, you know, one. And when you get into an argument, oh, I'm the right one. Because that's just like a personal ego thing, I think, that comes to us whenever, you know, a conversation, especially something with a relationship. Romantic relationships are like battlegrounds of who's right and who's wrong. You've seen that, the old saying of the arguing like an old couple, and you've seen that, the older couple that they argue and they go back and forth, but you notice that it's not in a malicious way. You know that they argue, but they argue like they've been arguing for years, and it's with undertones of comedy and jokes, and you know, they go back and forth, and you can just see that they you know, but you don't, you never take out the trash, and it's, oh, quit yapping at me, woman. You know, like that old sort of like cliche of the arguing like an old married couple. And it's kind of funny when you think about it, because older relationships, if you look at them and kind of have a, you know, kind of a comical sort of, if you can kind of laugh about it a little bit, it kind of helps bringing some comedy into, you know, the relationships or the arguments, to kind of break that tension a little bit. You know, it's kind of fascinating to think about. You know, and if somebody says, "Oh, you guys argue like an old married couple," you know, that means maybe, you know, maybe you're doing arguing the correct way. You know, that arguments are bound to happen in any romantic relationship, even friendships as well. Arguments are a normal thing, you know, so long as they don't go over the top, right? Because I think we've all been to that point in a romantic relationship where you're just so, you know, your partner, you've just had it up to here, you know, everything that they're doing is irritating you. You can't, you don't even want to be around them, you know, and you love them to death, but, you know, maybe something is, you know, it's, they're, you're upset because they keep leaving their shoes in the middle of the hallway, or something dumb You know, you don't like that they keep leaving the toilet seat up, or they don't even flush. They forget to flush the toilet, and it's just, or they didn't take out the trash, or you know, those little things that build up and stuff, and you get up to that point where you've just had it, and you say something you really didn't mean to say, or you said something that came from a place of anger, you know, and then you finally lash out and you let it go and you say it, and it feels good in the moment, and then immediately afterwards you're like, I shouldn't have said that. And you ended up taking that anger and you hurt your partner even worse, because you said something that really, really, like, daggers and arrows slung at them, you know? And you kind of got to be careful when you get to that angry spot. Sometimes it's best to just cool down a little bit and walk away and be like, you know what, I need a couple minutes to myself to compose myself and get myself together. Because if I speak from the place that I'm at right now, I'm going to say something that I don't mean. I'm going to say something that, you know, is going to come off, and it's going to be something that could potentially hurt my partner. You know, and we don't want to hurt our partners. Of course not. We don't want to say things that upset them and hurt them. You know, we want our partners to be able to communicate with us in an appropriate way that's non, you know, we want to feel good at the end of the day, right? Everybody wants to feel good. We want to feel loved. We want to feel desired. We want to feel like our partner respects us, that our partner, you know, understands us, that they are considerate of our needs and our emotional states. I think everybody wants that, you know, especially from a romantic partner. You know, you're talking about somebody that, you know, you're giving your heart to, you're giving your everything to, right? And that's a lot of pressure when you think about it. That's a lot to put on another person. You know, your inner self, you know, your vulnerable self that you give to your partner that the rest of the world doesn't see. You're out and about in your adult life, you know, you're a working professional. You have to talk to tons of people. You have to make interactions all day. You got to deal with the creditors. You got to deal with the bill collectors. You got to deal with your coworkers. You got to deal with, you know, customers. If, you know, you whatever work that you do, you know, you're talking to clients and people all day and whatnot. And you got to deal with yourself, your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health. Some may even say your spiritual health. You know, you got to maintain your home. You got to maintain your cars. You got to maintain, you know, everything else in your life. You got to make sure that you're paying your taxes and you know, managing everything that an adult human being has to manage. You know, and then on top of that, then you have to be a courteous, loving, passionate, respectful partner to the love of your life. You know, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot just to take care of yourself, but then to go ahead and be that person that, you know, that shoulder to lean on. And we all need somebody like that. You know, I mean, I wouldn't say everybody. Some people are okay just being on their own. And if you're good on your own, hey, that's, if it works for you with your life, that's fine. But a mass majority of people, they, you know, they need somebody else. You know, it's a lot to go through this whole life thing by yourself. And if you are fortunate enough to have a partner that is supportive of you, that loves you, cares about you, you know, has your best interest in heart, and not only that, but also pushes you. You know, sometimes, you know, when your partner kind of pushes you to do better, to do more in your life, to get out there and go be more ambitious and want to achieve more and want to strive more, that's a good thing. At times, though, it can feel like, that partner is trying to change you. And that can be kind of disheartening because it can feel like, oh, she's trying to change me as an individual, or he's trying to change me as an individual. No. Sometimes your partner really is just trying to push you because they see potential in you. They see something that maybe inside yourself you don't see. But they see it because, they might know you better than that you know yourself. Because they're the one person that interacts with you more than anybody else. You may think, oh, they don't know me well enough. You'd be surprised what your partner knows about you. You'd really be surprised how much they know about you, your habits, your actions, and who they really see you as. And if you're fortunate enough to have a partner that does push you, that's a godsend. It's good to have somebody that pushes you a bit, pushes you out of your comfort zone, encourages you to try new things and to, better yourself. If you find somebody that's like that is pushing you in the positive direction, then that's good. So long as it's comes from a place of love and care and genuinely, hey, I want the best for you. There's nothing wrong with that. We've all heard of that tough love, right? We get that from your parents. Tough love. Why when you get into trouble does your parent, scold you or get angry with you or even punish you? Why? They do that for tough love because they want the best for you. They want the best for you, and they want you to turn into a decent human being. I look back and I think about how I grew up and my family and how my parents reacted to a lot of things. And when you're younger, you don't understand that. You think, oh, they're taking away your video game station for 2 weeks because they're mean. No, they're not mean. They just are trying to teach you a lesson about life. And as a kid, you don't get it through to you because, you're not able to process these things as a child, so they have to do something to make you aware of that change that you need to make, right? So they take away your PlayStation for 2 weeks so that you learn, so that you associate what you did that was bad with a negative consequence, so that when you get older, you don't keep making those same mistakes. Because as you get older, those mistakes that you make come with higher consequences, right? So there's a reason why you get punished as a child. There's a reason mom or dad says, hey, go in time out for 5 minutes. Or, hey, you're no TV for the rest of the night. No PlayStation for the next 2 weeks. There's a reason why they do it. And it's so you become a decent human being in your adult life. Listen, if you like this video, like, subscribe, share this with somebody that needs to hear this, putting up more videos as we go. I like doing this. It's a great way. It's kind of therapeutic for me in a way to kind of get out here and talk about some of my thoughts and some of the things that I've been thinking about. I'm really excited. Got a couple new subscribers. Thank you. I appreciate the support. I'm hoping to put out more videos as I go along. Life is getting a little complicated for me, so yeah, I'm going to try to do the best I can. Tune in for the next one. I'll see ya. Peace.